US President Donald Trump's 10% baseline tax on all imports began this Saturday.
Global stock markets record major losses after US President Donald Trump imposed his reciprocal tariff policy on imports from more than 180 countries. At least 14 people were killed and more than 24 others injured in a Russian ballistic missile attack on the central Ukrainian city of Kryvyi Rih.
US President Donald Trump's 10% baseline tax on all imports, announced on Wednesday, began this Saturday. Trump's tariffs have triggered an escalating trade war and caused global markets to fall. The move, called reciprocal tariffs, is a key campaign promise and aims to reduce the trade gap by increasing taxes on foreign goods. The money from these taxes goes to the US government to help pay for services. Trump wants to use this money to fund US tax cuts, which analysts say would disproportionately benefit the wealthy. The 20% tax on European products could actually lower prices in Europe due to increased supply from China and within the EU. According to the World Trade Organization, US tariffs are generally lower than those charged by other countries. Next week, higher levies are set to begin.
Markets are continuing to feel the jitters of Trump's aggressive global tariffs. Trump unveiled his global reciprocal tariff policy, which imposes customs duties on imports from more than 180 countries, ranging from 10 to over 50%. This was exacerbated after China also imposed its own counter tariffs on the US. European markets experienced a sharp decline on the first day after the announcement. The German DAX fund closed the week with a drop of more than 1,000 points, roughly 5%, setting a new daily low for the index. Spain's largest stock market, the Iberian Index, or IBEX 35, also experienced similar decline. France's CAC 40 dropped about 4.3%. Trump's policy also recorded some significant blows to U.S. stock markets. The S&P 500 fell by roughly 6%, a record low since the COVID-19 pandemic. The Dow Jones Index reported a 5.5% decline, while the Nasdaq Composite also saw a fall of almost 6%. Trump seems unfazed by the market reaction to his policies, instead noting that the decline will only be temporary. Ukrainian officials say Russia targeted the central city of Kryvyi Rih with ballistic missile attacks on Friday. At least 14 people were killed, including 6 children, and more than 30 others were injured and receiving medical attention. Authorities warned the death toll may continue to rise from the attack on the residential neighborhood, stating that some of those wounded sustained critical injuries. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says at least 5 buildings were damaged in the process and accused Russia of not being serious about the prospect of peace. The attacks coincided with the Kremlin sending an envoy to Washington for talks with U.S. President Donald Trump's administration. Kirill Dmitriev, who heads Russia's sovereign wealth fund, says his talks with U.S. officials explored ways to normalize Moscow and Washington's relations. The talks, which he described as productive, also addressed economic and investment questions. Zelensky says Dmitriev's visit was aiming to discuss the possibility of withdrawing $300 billion in Russian frozen assets.
Italy's Five-Star Party called for a rally to protest against the EU's defence spending plans on Saturday. Leader Giuseppe Conte said that in a time of economic difficulty for many families, the idea of spending huge amounts of money on armament is unacceptable. Conte called the rally to oppose the rearmament plan promoted by the Italian government. The Green Left Alliance and a delegation from the Democratic Party also joined the demonstration.
Thomas Müller will end his incredible journey with Bayern Munich this summer after 25 years at his boyhood club, but says he wasn't ready to leave. The 35-year-old midfielder, whose contract is set to expire after the season, made the announcement on Saturday in a joint statement with Bayern. On Instagram, Müller wrote that he respected Bayern's decision not to offer him a new contract for next season. The team said the German's final game with Bayern will be at the FIFA Club World Cup in the United States in June and July.